Allez, vas-y, viens. Bien, buenos días.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to encourage anyone who is still standing to take their seats. We are about to start our session, and there are a number of additional items to the debate. So a very good morning to you all once again, delegates. I'm delighted to be able to launch this 6th plenary sitting of the 114th International Labour Conference plenary. This morning we have opened voting on the withdrawal of the Convention on Labour Standards in Non-Metropolitan Areas of 1947. That is ILO Convention 83. This is in line with the decision taken at Wednesday's plenary. The conference will then receive the first report of the Credentials Committee, of which it must take note. And then we will resume the list of speakers for the discussion of the reports from the Chair of the Governing Body and the Director General. As we have a very long list of speakers, I propose that we get started without further ado. So, we will now start with the opening of voting on the withdrawal of Convention number 83, in line with the procedure established in Article 52 of the Standing Orders of the International Labour Conference, and through an initiative from the governing body, the conference may decide to withdraw a convention which is not in force or has never been in force, or which is no longer in force because it has been denounced. At its 352nd meeting in October-November of 2024, the governing body of the International Labour Office decided to place an item on the agenda of the 114th International Labour Conference 2026 concerning withdrawal of the Convention on Labour Standards in Non-Metropolitan Areas from 1947, ILO Convention 83. At the opening session on Monday, the conference decided to consider this issue directly in Wednesday's plenary. At that session, the conference decided that, pursuant to Article 52, Paragraph 2 of the conference's standing orders, to put this formal proposal on the withdrawal of the convention to a nominal vote, which we will proceed with shortly. Thus, the conference must declare its position whether it adopts the content proposed in paragraph 11 of report ILC 114/Roman 7/2, on the basis of which it will decide whether or not the convention in question is withdrawn. I would now like to ask the Secretary of the Conference, Mr. Bormioli, to provide us with the necessary instructions so that this vote can take place as from 10:30 today. Please go ahead, Mr. Lucas. Thank you very much, President. Good morning, everybody.
Explain the voting procedure again. You will be asked to cast one vote on the adoption of the proposal contained in paragraph 11 of document ILC 114/7/2. The vote will be a record vote. It will be taken by electronic means through the internet-based platform. Once the vote opens, all delegates entitled to vote will receive an email to the email address provided when they did their accreditations in their credentials. The email will contain the link necessary to cast your votes. You must simply click on the link in the email to be redirected to the voting platform and enter the 4-digit code which you will find on your badge. The persons entitled to vote can do so using their own devices, meaning a personal computer or a smartphone or a tablet, or by using the voting stations available in front of the Assembly Hall at the Palais des Nations or at the hall of the CICG building and in front of the governing body room for those who are in the ILO building. The Secretariat staff will be present at these 3 locations to provide any assistance that you may need. There will be one voting session with one vote to cast, and you will be asked the following questions. Are you in favor of the withdrawal of the Labour Standards Non-Metropolitan Territories Convention 1947, number 83? Once the selection between yes, no, or abstention has been made, delegates will be asked to confirm their vote and will have a last opportunity to review their votes. Then the votes will be definitely cast when you click on Submit Ballot. The vote will be opened this morning at 10:30 and be closed at 5 p.m. today. The results will be announced by the chairing officer to the plenary on Monday, 8th of June in the morning plenary sitting. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bormioli. Esteemed delegates, I declare open the voting procedure as of 10:30 a.m. this morning until 5 p.m. this afternoon. In line with what I just announced at the start of this session, we will now hear the presentation of the first report from the Credentials Committee, which is catalogued under the code Minutes 1A, and we will take note of this report. I would like to welcome the members of that committee. The chair of the committee is Mr. Shah Nazar Khan from Pakistan. The employer vice president is Mr. Fernando Illanes Martinez from Mexico. And the worker vice president is Mr. Magnus Nordahl from Iceland. I would now like to give the floor to the Chair of the Commission, Mr. Shah Nazar Khan, who's going to present the report. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I have the honor of presenting the first report of the Credential Committee. To date, 174 of the 187 member states of the International Labour Organization have accredited a delegation to this 114th session of the International Labour Conference. The committee has noted that 12 member states have not accredited a delegation as compared to 15 in 2025. At the same time, there has been a doubling in the number of incomplete delegations. This year, 6 compared to 3 last year. The committee has emphasized that by not appointing a delegation or by failing to accredit a fully tripartite delegation, governments deprive the employers or workers of their countries the right to be represented in person in the highest policy-making body of the ILO and to participate actively in its work. Concerning the proportion of women accredited in delegations, the committee has noted that while the 30% threshold was met by all the 3 groups this year, there has been limited progress in recent years in terms of achieving gender parity among accredited delegates, substitutes, and advisors. The committee recalled that the governing body has urged all groups to aspire to achieve gender parity. I will now turn to the issue of the representation of Myanmar. As in the past 5 years, the committee has received 2 competing sets of credentials. The committee has decided not to recognize either of the 2 authorities as the legitimate government of Myanmar, in line with the position taken by the United Nations General Assembly. The committee has also taken note of developments in the situation of Myanmar in the ILO since the last session of the conference in June 2025. In particular, the conference resolution concerning the measures recommended by the governing body under Article 33 of the ILO Constitution on the subject of Myanmar and the governing body discussions at its 355th November 2025 and 356th March 2026 sessions on the follow-up to this resolution. Lastly, in addition to the 5 cases of monitoring of which the committee is seized, in accordance with Article 34 of the Standing Orders, following decision taken at the last session of the conference, the committee has received several objections, complaints, and communications. The examination of which it has commenced forthwith. The committee believes that its work is facilitated when credentials reach the International Labour Office within the time limit set for their submission. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention to the work of this committee.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Credentials Committee has adopted its report unanimously and requests that the conference takes note of its contents as set out in Record 1A. Pursuant to Article 31, Paragraph 3 of the conference's standing orders, the conference has taken note of the report without a debate. So the conference adopts the report of the Credentials Committee. Thank you very much. I would now like to take this opportunity to extend my thanks to the members of the committee and the Secretariat for their excellent work. I've been told that there is a very conducive environment in the committee, so on behalf of the conference, I would like to thank them for their work and commitment. So, esteemed delegates, we will now resume our general debate on the reports. So we'll start with the list of speakers. As you can see on the screen, the first speaker on the screen is Mr. Muhammad, who is the worker delegate from Pakistan. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning, colleagues. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, I speak today from the perspective of workers in Pakistan and across the global south who are increasingly facing a new troubling reality. The world of work is being directly shaped not only by economic transformation, but also by geopolitical instability and conflict-driven disruption are beyond their control. In recent times, global tensions and conflicts have contributed to volatility in energy markets and supply chains. These shocks do not remain confined to political or strategic arenas. They travel quickly through the global economy and reach the most vulnerable workers, often silently, but with devastating effects. In countries across South Asia and other developing regions, we are witnessing the direct impact of rising fuel prices and transport instability on working people. But I wish to emphasize a category of workers who are bearing the shock in its most immediate and unforgiving form: platform economy workers, particularly delivery riders, taxi drivers. These workers live at the intersection of digital platforms and physical survival. Their income depends on daily mobility, fuel affordability, and constant availability. When fuel prices surge to transport system become unstable, they do not absorb the shock gradually. In fact, they absorbed it immediately in the form of lost income, deeper precarity, and in many cases, descent into working poverty. Honorable delegates, what we are witnessing is a structural gap in global labor governance. The architecture of globalization has become highly efficient in transmitting shocks across borders, yet it remains insufficiently protective when those shocks reach workers at the bottom of the labor hierarchy. We have global system for trade, finance, and energy coordination, but we do not yet have an equally strong system to ensure that labor protection is resilient in times of global disruption. This raises an important question for this esteemed assembly. How do we ensure that in moment of international tension or crisis, the cost is not disproportionately transferred to those who have no role in creating it, the workers who deliver food, transport, passengers, and sustain urban economies every single day. From a labor perspective, we must be clear. Essential economic activity cannot be allowed to become a channel through which global shocks deepen poverty and inequality. Honorable Chair, this is not a call for politicization of global conflict. It is rather a call for the international community to recognize a simple but urgent truth. Labor protection must be part of global resilience. We therefore urge this distinguished assembly to consider the following measures for future action. Firstly, the strengthening of social protection floors that are inclusive of platform and informal workers, ensuring that income shocks, especially those driven by external crises, do not push workers into destitution. Secondly, the development of policy frameworks that especially assess the labor market impact of global energy and supply chain disruptions with attention to vulnerable occupational groups such as platform workers. Third, more international and more strong coordination under the ILO's mandate to ensure that economic resilience strategies explicitly include workers' protection as a core objective, not an afterthought. And most importantly, recognition that platform workers are no longer peripheral to the economy. They are central to urban functioning and therefore must be treated as essential workers with essential protection, especially during times of crisis. Distinguished delegates, we live in a world where shocks travel fast, but protection travels slowly. That imbalance is no longer acceptable to workers. If the future of work is to be just and sustainable, then resilience must be measured not only by the stability of market, but by the stability of workers' lives in the face of global disruption. The International Labour Conference has a historic responsibility to ensure that the world becomes more interconnected and workers are not left more exposed. We must move toward a global labor framework where even in times of geopolitical tensions, energy volatility, or supply chain disruption, the dignity and livelihood of workers remain protected and prioritized. Thank you, dear Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. I would now like to give the floor to Mr. Hugo Barreto, who is the government delegate from Uruguay.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, esteemed President. The volatility and pace of change in the world of work pose an overriding challenge, which was well identified in the DG's report, and it comprises the need to know and understand these changes, which have to be captured in flight as if they were a snapshot. So that's why it makes sense in the report to refer to a moment of choice, which evokes a classic book of photography from Cartier-Bresson. In fact, developments are uncertain from a number of angles. Many analysts presage the mass destruction of jobs because they'll be replaced by light automated and smart machines. Nevertheless, evidence doesn't show such a clear relationship. Rather, international studies tend to consider that what is happening at the moment is a gradual reshaping of tasks above all, which constitute a new stage in applying technology to work, which has been going on since the first industrial revolution. The quality of employment is not safeguarded, and in fact, there's a certain risk of undermining social and labour protection if labour relationships are not set out in the correct terms. And in fact, this will greatly increase the gap between productivity and the security of employment, and the situation for women will be compounded because they are particularly exposed to automation through AI. That's why it's absolutely vital to invest in job creation and well-being. But we have seen in Uruguay that some companies, move on to another country or restructure without any forewarning, and that makes it very difficult for us to implement measures to provide alternatives for those who see such an impact on their working lives. So this complex landscape requires both domestic and international responses. At the international level, our government is committed to sparing no effort so that an international convention on decent work in the platform economy can be adopted. Our ambition is that this instrument will recognise a framework of rights for all persons who work in this economy, because the preamble of the ILO Constitution sets out that whereas also the failure of any nation to adopt humane conditions of labour is an obstacle in the way of other nations which desire to improve the conditions in their own countries. And of increasingly to recast since technology is a challenge to the standards which were conceived for industrial methods of production. So we have to streamline and enhance existing standards on being able to switch off and protection from monitoring by algorithms as well, which can be ways of invading people's privacy and causing risks to occupational safety and health. The National Institute for Employment and Vocational Training in my country, which is a tripartite institute, as it is in many countries, must play a leading role, since ongoing training and retraining the workforce to address the integration of AI into work systems is a very current and unavoidable challenge. It's certainly not outside the scope of government action to facilitate a better distribution of the benefits of technological process. And governments can do this by reducing working time, which is an initiative which we are trying to build consensus on through social dialogue. A reform of this nature must go hand in hand with participatory governance from the various constituents. That's why Uruguay has a very solid tradition of tripartism, which is an instrument which we hope will facilitate fair transition policies for companies, workers and the public sector. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Ms. Martinson, who is the worker delegate from Sweden.
President, distinguished delegates, I speak on behalf of the Swedish trade union movement. We are meeting at a moment of profound choice, a moment shaped not only by technological transformation, but by deep and growing inequalities in the world of work. The Director General's report makes one thing clear: artificial intelligence is not a neutral force. It has the potential to create new opportunities, but it also risks intensifying inequalities, reshaping power relations, and undermining rights, unless it is governed with purpose, with people at the center, and with workers' rights fully respected. Decent work is not a technological outcome. It is a political choice. Artificial intelligence will not automatically lead to better jobs or greater inequality. Outcomes depend on governance, on institutions, and on the balance of power in the labor market. Without strong labor institutions, without rights at work, and without effective social dialogue, there is a real risk that the benefits of these technologies will be concentrated to a few, while the costs are borne by those least able to carry them. We already see warning signs. AI is reshaping work organization. It can intensify harmful working conditions, increase surveillance, and reduce workers' autonomy. It can reproduce existing patterns of discrimination and reinforce inequalities. We need to make sure that AI will not create a digital gap in addition to the already existing pay gap. At the same time, persistent digital divides mean that those with access to technology, skills and infrastructure are far better positioned to benefit, while others risk falling farther behind. For the trade union movement, the response must therefore be clear. First, fundamental principles and rights at work are not negotiable, especially where decisions about recruitment, wages, working time, and performance are increasingly shaped by algorithms. Second, we must ensure that technological change leads to better jobs, not just different jobs. This requires not only investment in skill, reskilling, and upskilling, but also clear focus on job quality, safe and healthy working conditions, fair wages, and genuine influence over work. As the Director General underlines, job quality is as critical as job quantity. Third, we must strengthen social protection. Transitions will occur. Workers will move between jobs, between sectors and forms of employment. Social protection system must provide real security in these transitions. Without such security, inequalities will deepen and unemployment will worsen. Finally, social dialogue is essential. Where workers are meaningfully involved in shaping how technologies are introduced and used, outcomes tend to be more balanced, enhancing both rights protection and organizational performance. The question before us is not whether AI will transform the world of work. It is already transforming it. The question is whether that transformation will advance dignity and quality and social justice. On behalf of the Swedish Trade Union Confederation and the Swedish Confederation of Professional Employees, allow me to remind you all of the situation of workers in the occupied Arab territories. The report describes a reality that urgently needs attention and support. In Gaza, the labor market has collapsed. Workplaces are destroyed. Unemployment is extreme, and many workers rely on humanitarian assistance or precarious informal activities simply to survive. In the West Bank, movement restrictions, violence, and economic fragmentation continues to severely constrain access to work, income, and basic labor rights. This is not about the future of work. It is about the possibility of work. Restoring livelihoods, rebuilding institutions, and ensuring access to work, rights and dignity must therefore remain central priority. Across these very different contexts, a common lesson emerges. The future of work, whether shaped by technological change or by recovery from crisis, is not predetermined. It is shaped by choices. Choices about rights, about distribution, and about power. A human-centered future of work is not only possible, it is necessary. And it is our collective responsibility to make it a reality. Let us remember that work is not a commodity, and that poverty anywhere constitutes danger to prosperity everywhere. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call on Mr. Mendoza, who is the representative of the Holy See as an observer.
Mr. President,
At a time when humanity is at a crossroads and facing the immense potential generated by the digital revolution driven by AI, Pope Leo XIV wrote his first encyclical letter, Magnifica Humanitas, on safeguarding the human person in the age of artificial intelligence. The world of work is not immune to this change of era. In this context, AI must always function as a tool for the good of human beings, not to diminish them, not to replace them. In light of the emerging challenges posed by new forms of dehumanizing slavery, it is imperative to uphold human dignity and adopt a human-centered approach in all the aspects of work. In this regard, ethical AI safeguards should not be considered an afterthought, but must be embedded early in every AI model development process, as well as thoroughly verified before making it accessible to the public. Mr. President, a human-centered approach requires action in at least 5 core areas. Firstly, the benefits of AI should be distributed equally. Unfortunately, a digital divide persists and grows, not only in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of skills. In this regard, Pope Leo XIV emphasized the importance to educate ourselves and others about how to use AI intentionally. Closing the divide through cooperative efforts grounded in solidarity is not a peripheral concern. Rather, it's a prerequisite for any governance framework. Secondly, it is essential to identify and carefully assess which values are incorporated into AI models from the initial stage. It is insufficient to merely appeal for the so-called moralization of machines. For instance, when AI is assessed against criteria of productivity and cost reduction, it inevitably produces a distorted, commodified idea of work. Instead, the ethical frameworks should be subject to shared standards of social justice. Otherwise, those who control AI will impose their own moral vision, which will become the invisible infrastructure of these systems. Indeed, this concentration of power over mainstream AI applications in the hands of a few raises significant ethical concerns. Thirdly, it is vital to accompany technological progress with an equally robust protection of workers' rights. Job insecurity, fragmented career paths, automation must not be evaluated solely in terms of efficiency, but in relation to the dignity of the worker, the right to sufficient remuneration, and the genuine possibility of participating in society. The fact that workers are often forced to adapt to the speed of machines, rather than machines being designed to help workers, must be remedied. Fourthly, greater attention should be given to the most vulnerable workers and to their conditions. This includes the more than 150 million data laborers around the world. In this regard, the ongoing work of the Standard Setting Committee on Platform Workers must be encouraged. Fifthly, it is also necessary to harness the genuine benefits of AI, including its capacity to reduce human exposure to dangerous, degrading, and monotonous tasks, and to strengthen occupational safety and health. It is important to note that AI systems are not completely neutral. They have the capacity to encourage participation and promote justice. At the same time, there is risk that they may intensify inequality, control, and exclusion. It is imperative that adequate social protection systems are in place, encompassing extended social protection floors, alongside upskilling and reskilling programs that society can benefit fully. Mr. President, we stand at a critical moment of choice, which is also a moment of responsibility. The responsibility to ensure that the future of work serves the human person and not the other way around. In this regard, Pope Leo XIV calls for a coordinated local and global governance of AI based on the shared recognition of the inherent dignity and fundamental freedoms of the human person. Such governance must be developed through genuine societal dialogue rather than by technical expertise alone, as solidarity demands that decisions regarding AI take into account not only the immediate benefit for a few, but also the impact on all peoples. This organization, with its unique tripartite structure, is uniquely positioned to help shape this effort. Thank you, Mr. President.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Mr. Ando, the employer delegate from Japan.
Mr. President and Madam Vice President and distinguished delegations, it is an honor to speak on behalf of the employers of Japan. Today, the world faces multiple and interconnected challenges. Japan is experiencing population aging and a declining birth rate at a faster pace than any other country. These trends have brought structural challenges, including a shrinking workforce, labor shortages, and contracting market, as well as the vulnerabilities with limited natural resources and even natural disasters as an island nation. We believe that science and technology, including AI, will be indispensable in overcoming these challenges and creating new value for society. In this regard, the Director General's report is both timely and highly relevant in addressing the impact of AI on employment. We agree with the importance it attaches to a human-centered approach to AI. In Japan, we have developed the social principles of human-centric AI, which place human dignity, rights, and well-being at the core of AI development and use. Based on these principles, Japanese companies are striving to harness new technologies in ways that contribute to economic growth and global prosperity. At the same time, companies are engaging in continuous dialogue with workers to foster understanding of both the opportunities and the risks associated with AI and ensure its responsible and trustworthy use in the workplace. We fully recognize concerns related to the AI, including risks of discrimination, inequality, and impacts on privacy. In this regard, the Director General's report rightly underlines the need of effective governance and regulation. However, AI technologies are evolving at unprecedented speed. It remains difficult to predict precisely how AI will transform work and employment in the years ahead. Moreover, countries differ greatly in their stages of development, digital infrastructure, and the labor market conditions. In such circumstances, overly detailed, prescriptive, and one-size-fits-all international standards may unintentionally widen technological and digital divides between ratifying and non-ratifying countries, rather than to reduce them. Therefore, what is important is not to aim for a normative approach, but to strengthen practical support for governments and enterprises through the accumulation and sharing of corporate best practices, technical cooperation, and capacity building on the ground. Rather than moving prematurely toward new international labor standards, we believe the ILO can play a valuable role in promoting voluntary, practically, and country-responsive approach that enables appropriate and inclusive use of AI. We, Kendaren, in Japan, will continue to contribute actively to the work of the ILO, while valuing tripartite social dialogue toward achieving decent work and inclusive growth. Thanks for your attention.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Mr. Gerardo Martinez, worker delegate from Argentina.
Señor Presidente.
President, my friend and comrade, The world is in turmoil because of a multi-dimensional crisis with an increase in poverty and inequality. Wars are causing a global crisis with economic meltdowns causing hunger and death. Multilateralism is in peril. Nevertheless, globalization promised us a development agenda, and the financial pandemic of 2008 was resolved by using the public's resources. That's just unbelievable. Out of 190 countries, only 40 are developed. We're going through a period in which there is extreme concentration of economic resources. 10% of the world's population have 75% of the wealth. According to official data, the accumulated fortune of the 1,000 billionaires in the world was 3% of global GDP 40 years ago. Now it's over 17%. I'm speechless. That's why we must launch a new social contract and redebate the balance between capital and labour. Time is of the essence. Otherwise, extreme poverty will be relentless. Technological progress, artificial intelligence will create artificial social justice unless we have a new social contract. Our aim is that these innovations provide development, production, labour, and changing the current situation. We welcome the encyclical from Pope Leo XIV, Magnifica Humanitas, which calls for us to protect people from machines in a new contract of living together where there's room for everyone. And he underscores something that we agree with. Every way in which automation is introduced must go hand in hand with measures to check if jobs are being protected, workers involved and retrained. In the Americas, structural gaps are growing. There's more informal employment, inequality and unemployment. There are killings, persecution and the jailings of trade union leaders. Trade union freedom and everything that it involves, along with social dialogue, are historic conquests, achievements which must strengthen governance in Western democracies. In Argentina, the political message continues to be confrontation, and people who live in poverty or work in the informal sector are scorned. The government ignores urgent economic and social needs. The costs of this adjustment are a loss of purchasing power and worse, job insecurity. There are cuts in funding in health and education, and there are no employment policies for the sectors exposed to extreme poverty. With the connivance of provincial governments, our national government adopted a labour reform in favour of companies, which curtails rights and has been cheered on by shady entrepreneurs. They're handing over the state's role to the private sector. But if there's no state, there's no nation. And that's why the Argentinian trade union movement reiterates its commitment to an economic and social covenant which drives economic sustainability and policies for increasing production, innovation, investment, job creation and labour formalisation. We warn once again against policies that only promote production, labour and employment, but at a rank which is far below that of our tax, monetary and exchange rate policies. Governing is about creating decent jobs. Without a shadow of doubt, a sustainable dialogue must be at the very heart of our efforts to resolve structural problems. We've got proposals, but they're ignoring them. We call for free collective bargaining and we reject any cap on wage negotiations. We reiterate no to wage freezes. We believe in a country where capital serves the economy and the economy social well-being. We need a dialogue for Argentina with development rights, social protection, in which nobody is superfluous. Those who govern us must understand that the Argentinian people are banking on a government which is sound and transparent, and a policy in which integrity and equality are seen every day. Thank you. Thank you. I now call on Mr. Takun, who is the Deputy Minister for Labour and Social Protection from Belarus.
Mr. Chair, delegates and participants of the plenary sitting, allow me on behalf of the Government of the Republic of Belarus to welcome the national delegations to the 114th session of the International Labour Conference and to congratulate Mr. Juan Castillo on his election to the high and honourable post of President of the Conference. I would like to wish all of us interesting and productive work. This year, the Director General's report focuses on one of the most pressing topics, the use of artificial intelligence and its controversial impact on the world of work. The report presents the results of a comprehensive analysis of the potential impact of AI on the labour market, on employment and labour rights, emphasising the need for regulation in this area within the framework of tripartite social dialogue. The Director General has very correctly noted that the current stage of technological development is a critical point, a moment of choice when humanity must decide whether AI will become an instrument for infringing on workers' rights, deepening social inequality, and devaluing human labour, or, on the contrary, will serve as a catalyst for social justice, humanitarian and economic progress. Today, Belarus, like many other countries, stands on the threshold of a large-scale digital transformation. AI is rapidly evolving from a futuristic concept into an everyday tool for automation, analytics, and management. We understand that the main challenge is to align AI development with the concept of decent work, integrated into the national agenda. Human rights and interests must be placed at the forefront of technological progress. They include safe working conditions, fair pay, accessible and effective social protection, and opportunities for professional growth. I believe Belarus has good potential for the development of AI and its use for the benefit of working people. We have a developed IT sector, have preserved and modernized our industrial base, and provide state support for digitalization. In the context of demographic challenges and personnel shortages, AI can be viewed not as a threat of job losses, but as an opportunity to overcome these difficulties, increase labor productivity, and dramatically improve the quality of jobs. The introduction of AI has the potential to fundamentally change labor standards. For example, it can improve safety and occupational health to minimize risks to life and health through computer vision systems, accident prediction, and human replacement in hazardous areas. It could also help eliminate routine tasks and intellectualize the workplace, allowing workers to move on to more complex, creative, and highly paid work. Another advantage is the inclusiveness and accessibility of the labor market. AI is a powerful tool for breaking down barriers. New technologies are opening up remote opportunities for people with disabilities. AI-powered job platforms can more accurately match job seekers' skills with employers' requirements. However, we are realists and understand the threats posed by the digital age. An optimistic scenario is only possible if strict control is ensured over the risks associated with the implementation of AI. The issue concerns the threat of technological unemployment for mid-skilled specialists, discrimination in hiring and employee evaluation by AI systems, unequal access to technology between the capital and the regions, IT companies and the public sector, and the erosion of traditional labor rights in the context of platform employment. To make the choice in favor of decent work, the government, business, and trade unions must work together. They must ensure advanced training and retraining of personnel with a focus on digital literacy, and expand continuous learning programs. Must make decisions on digitalization and the implementation of AI in enterprises within the framework of social dialogue, work to create a legal framework that eliminates digital discrimination, and enshrines a people-centered approach focusing on psychological comfort, safety, and professional growth. The moment of choice is a challenge that cannot be overcome alone. AI knows no national borders. Belarus advocates for intensified international cooperation on this issue. It is worth considering developing global, ethical, and legal standards for AI to ensure that it becomes our reliable partner in building a fair, secure, and dignified future. Unfortunately, Belarus is currently unable to fully cooperate with the ILO due to the adoption in 2023 of a politicized resolution initiated by our opponents to justify the imposed sanctions. This is a mistake and it needs to be corrected. Tomorrow, on the 6th of June, the Committee on the Application of Standards will hold a special sitting on Belarus. I call on conference delegates to support Belarus and prevent further politicization of the ILO and its supervisory bodies. Thank you for your attention.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Mr. Palacios Torres, employer delegate from Colombia.
Señor Presidente.
President, officers, very good morning to you all. Sometimes we constituents forget how important social dialogue is for the world of work. We forget that the world of work often has differing interests. They're sometimes contradictory, and the way of addressing them is through social dialogue. This may seem like a commonplace, which is often repeated on national platforms and even on this international stage. But that's exactly why we rarely realize that tripartite social dialogue is the only stable path for dealing with the differences which are inherent to the world of work. Furthermore, we often forget that social dialogue is not just a method, it's a prerequisite for ensuring that such important rights as the right to organize and the right to have collective bargaining can be achieved. Social dialogue is not just one option on a menu for constituents. Social dialogue is the only context in which we can develop the basic aims of the world of work. But regrettably, the situation in Colombia is quite different because the government has failed to see how important it is to involve the employers' group in decisions which are decisive for the world of work. They present bills without consultation, or they speed through government decrees which have only been agreed with beforehand with the workers, or they have dialogues with bodies which lack the legitimacy of the most representative employers' organizations. And they have dialogues outside the constitutionally recognized bodies, or dialogues which are just a mere formality with no intention of achieving agreement. In fact, these are procedures which undermine the very heart of social dialogue as the essence of tripartism, recognized as such by the ILO. As a delegate from the employers' group, it is our duty to recall that the basis of social dialogue is to ensure that all constituents can participate. So we must not be distracted by siren's song, which means that government only listens to those who come from the world of work, just one part of them, and they make alliances with those who differ the least from their positions. As a result, the employer's sector has been constantly excluded. Ultimately, this has the tragic result of making it more difficult to achieve rights and principles of the world of work, and it means that it undermines protection, which is the ultimate aim of the ILO. The Director General's report reminds us that we face a new unavoidable risk, such as the changes caused by the use of artificial intelligence. So social dialogue is absolutely vital for ensuring that there are transparent and sustainable rules which are suitable for protecting workers' rights, as well as the interests of companies which need to be productive to survive. And this shows how tripartism allows us to strengthen the democratic avenues for addressing the challenges faced by the world of work. As an employer's delegate from Colombia, I make a call for the new government, which will take office in the middle of this year, to define what it intends to do with social dialogue. We need a social dialogue in which we're seen as members and not as enemies, and realize that we are, even despite our differences, united in one common purpose, and that is to build a better country for everybody through social dialogue. So Colombian employers are committed and interest devoted to working for this national aim, which we will do in our country and as a member of this organization. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Mr. Rougani, who is the worker delegate from France.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Confederal Secretary of the International Europe sector of Force Ouvrière, and I'm speaking here on behalf of all trade unions of French workers. I would like to begin by affirming our solidarity with all workers' trade unions who continue to be repressed, imprisoned, murdered in different parts of the world, simply because they defend the values of the International Labour Organization. This 114th session of the ILC must strengthen multilateralism, must hold high the values wanted by its creators, and to mark a true turning point for workers and the world of work. The too numerous conflicts around the world impact all workers who are fighting not just to live, but to survive. Activity is stagnating, public and private employment is in decline, and more businesses are failing. Behind these facts, there are lives of workers whose purchasing power is being eroded, families whose modest means are being reduced with every payment they make. This degradation affects industrial areas in transition, rural and suburban areas, and those far removed from centers of activity first. Where precarity already existed, the current shock is aggravating it. This reality is hard to read in notes on the economy, but it must be integrated and included in our considerations. It is also essential for us to work to promote social justice, to advance with social dialogue, collective bargaining, respect of the value chain, eradicating child labor and forced labor. We must create quality, sustainable employment in a safe environment. Too many workers die every day at work or because of their work. We must reduce poverty and informal work by promoting a living wage with health protections, putting into place or maintaining pay-as-you-go pension systems. Because we all want peace, we owe it to ourselves to build social justice. A new standard is being discussed, and we entreat all parties of multilateralism who are present and working to ensure that this discussion is a success in order to provide protections to platform workers, whether they are in employment or freelance, young or older, whether they are more or less vulnerable. The future which is being built with artificial intelligence and which shows us the negative effects it has on workers in the world of work every day must be regulated and limited. This is a priority. It is essential. In my country, in France, which has just ratified Convention 155 and thus joins those nations which have ratified all of the ILO's fundamental conventions. In this France, which is moving forward, I must all the same remain clear-headed. We must remain constantly vigilant in order to hold on to what we have achieved. For example, we recently had to repeatedly defend the 1st of May, the International Day for the Rights of Workers, which in France is a non-working paid day off for all workers, according to the provisions of our Labour Code. We have maintained this legal framework for the 1st of May this year, but a new attack is already underway for the next 16th of June. And we know that this battle is not over. I would like to recall that the 1st of May is not a holiday like others. It commemorates the fight of workers, marked notably by tragic events such as the Formy massacre on the 1st of May 1891. To question the principle of this day is to question more than a century of social history and collective victories. To conclude, I would like to remind you of the promise of the Philadelphia Declaration, according to which all human beings, irrespective of race, creed, or sex, have the right to pursue both their material well-being and their spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity, of economic security and equal opportunity, end quote. Through tripartite dialogue, which has been established within the ILO, we have promised to reform the world of work and to provide workers with adequately paid work, decent working conditions, freedom, health, safety, and real opportunities. For myself, I believe that this promise was a commitment not only for those who wrote it, but which commits all of us to moving forward. More than ever, we owe it to ourselves to keep this promise. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Mr. Ba'a Wayne, Minister of Labour of Oman.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيد الرئيس.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, Mr. President, Director General of the ILO, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of governments, employers and workers, may the peace of God be upon you. I would like to begin by thanking the Director General for his report with the title A Moment of Choice, Harnessing Artificial Intelligence for Decent Work. I would like to thank him for the annex to his report on the situation of Palestinian workers in the Arab-occupied territories. This annex highlights the humanitarian economic challenges which Palestinian workers face as a result of the occupation, war, restriction of movement, work and development. And we reiterate our strong position in favor of the rights of Palestinian people to decent work, to life, and we welcome the results of the vote, which has allowed us to waive certain provisions of the standing orders at the 113th session, and as far as the position of the Palestinian people at the ILO. This is a historic moment of progress to allow the participation of the State of Palestine and to have the voices of workers and social partners from Palestine be heard. The situation described in the report means that we must pursue our international efforts in favor of the protection of the rights of Palestinian workers and to support businesses to promote work opportunities and the safety and social protection in order to reach a more stable and just future. As far as the report on decent work and AI, the Sultanate considers that AI should serve humanity and should be used to improve productivity and the quality of services, developing businesses without damaging the rights of workers or exacerbating the social gap. The Sultanate has provided the labour market with the necessary tools to accompany the digital transition. With our vision for 2040, we have adopted legislation and policies to support decent work. We have adopted our labour code and the law on social protection. We have invested in developing skills and training. And we have also put into place a special zone in line with the Sultan's decree of 2025, was a step forward in support of investment in innovation and to attract technological investment. In order to guarantee the success of the digital transition, we must have a balanced approach, which is human-centered, while investing in future skills and strengthening social protection, also protecting health and safety at work. Social dialogue is essential in order to achieve this. We consider that this organization must continue to support member states by strengthening capacities and through exchange of experience in order to support this rapid change. The Sultanate has significant experience in the social protection system. This system covers all professions and all members of society, including workers in informal sectors and vulnerable groups. We have taken into account economic variables, social and demographic data, with complementarity across insurance programs and social protection, as well as social support networks put into place by the government and social society institutions, all while ensuring social justice and ensuring a balance between sustainability and social rights. We have received the first prize of the International Social Justice Program for Asia Pacific. Our system was recognized by international organs, including the ILO, which had a report on this subject, which was launched at a parallel side event at this conference, which highlights the international community's attachment to social protection, which is an essential pillar for social development, for stability, justice, and human dignity. In conclusion, we support the efforts of this organization in promoting social justice and decent work, and to achieve a balance between technological progress and protecting the rights of human beings in order to achieve a more inclusive and sustainable future for all. May the peace of God be upon you.
Thank you very much. I call on Mr. Parra Rojas, employer delegate from Cuba.
Señor Presidente.
President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the debate on the Director General's report at this conference about how to harness artificial intelligence for decent work is a very timely debate. Without a shadow of doubt, artificial intelligence is transforming the world of work. And I think we all agree that its effects are not predetermined by technology, but by the policies, institutions, and governance chosen by countries. But it's also clear that whilst artificial intelligence can drive productivity and well-being, it can also compound inequalities and job insecurity if not managed properly. The report provides us with very useful data for assessing the current situation and future challenges. Particularly interested to see the exposure to AI index drawn up by the ILO, which classifies occupations according to the potential exposure to generative AI. The information allows us to see that jobs are being reshaped, particularly tasks are being transformed, as well as the way work is organized. And this is what is more visible than mass redundancies we're following the same pattern, in fact, as in previous technological transitions. The data also indicates the risks which must be managed, such as greater inequalities between countries, companies and workers, greater job insecurity in certain tasks, undermining labour rights, concentration of media power, reduction in human capacity, greater vulnerability of women and young people, as well as the likelihood that small and medium-sized enterprises will fall behind large companies. When it comes to developed countries with better levels of infrastructure and capacity than less developed countries, the rollout of artificial intelligence will compound inequalities. If we look at what the report says, it draws attention to insufficient and fragmented regulation, whereas what we need are clear rules, transparency and accountability. The use of AI must respect principles and fundamental rights of work, and social dialogue is key to that, in line with national and sectoral realities. In short, AI, as a result of scientific development, is inevitable. We must absorb it and focus on the opportunities and advantages that this transformative force can bring to innovation, economic growth and productivity. When rolled out, new jobs will be created. Hazardous tasks will be eliminated, and there will be a safe and healthy environment which enhances also public services and decision making and facilitates the transition to formality. This is a complex panorama, though, so the ILO plays a vital role in taking advantage of AI's opportunities and mitigating risks. So that's why we must focus on producing evidence and analysis, support the countries in their policies, regulation, training, and drive international cooperation. We appreciate the priorities which are recommended for countries, and that they should invest in lifelong learning and developing skills which are adjusted to the use of AI. At the same time, we must encourage companies to adopt artificial intelligence in a strategic fashion so that they can enhance their processes, be more competitive. We must also provide special support to small and medium-sized countries that can benefit, but they require the appropriate infrastructure, funding and training. Without a shadow of doubt, we need regulatory frameworks for these processes. And we believe, though, that they should be drawn up flexibly and adjusted to national practices and as the outcome of tripartism. President, for Cuban entrepreneurs, artificial intelligence is without doubt an opportunity, despite the constraints we face in the area of technology and connectivity. We have highly skilled people with the necessary skills for working with new technology, as well as business leaders that drive technological development and scientific progress innovation. Our greatest challenge is to build the infrastructure we need for rolling out AI. But the main obstacle to that is the commercial, financial, economic and energy blockade imposed by the United States government, which affects the entire business sector, regardless of the size of the companies, their area of economic activity and their ownership structure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would now like to call on Mr. Deus Clemens Sangu, who is the Minister of Labour from the United Republic of Tanzania.
Honorable Chairperson, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's a profound privilege to speak before 114th session of the International Labour Conference on behalf of the United Republic of Tanzania. Being the very first time that I should stand before you, at the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to you, Mr. President, and the Vice President for the trust and confidence bestowed upon you to lead the proceedings of this conference. Honorable Chair, I'm honored to extend warm greetings from Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. Guided by our commendable leadership, our nation continues to register significant socio-economic achievement through targeted investment in infrastructure, digital transformation, industrial development, social protection, education, healthcare, agriculture, and employment opportunity bring tangible benefit to the daily life of our people. Honorable Chair, Tanzania reaffirms its commitment to inclusive technological transformation in promoting decent work, productivity, innovation, and social justice. This commitment is reflected in Tanzania Vision 2050 as a bold, inclusive, and forward-looking national roadmap symbolizing the aspiration of the people of Tanzania. Honorable Chair, achievements are also evident in financial services where women, youth, and rural communities have access to saving, credit, and economic opportunities. In public administration, e-government reforms enhance transparency, accountability, efficient, and citizens' engagement. Honorable Chair, Tanzania remains committed for promoting decent work and protecting workers' rights in digital era. As demonstrated by launch of National Decent Program number 3, the country further underscores its commitment by advancing occupational safety and health through workplace reforms, Vision Zero initiative, and stronger labor protection system. The government of Tanzania has also strengthened recognition of excellence in workplace safety and health through Occupation Safety and Health Award, with honor institutions and enterprises that demonstrate outstanding performance in protecting the well-being of workers. Honorable Chair, the government of Tanzania is also strengthening social protection system through the new formulated National Social Protection Policy of the year 2023. On the other hand, through digital legislation, the government has expanded coverage to informal and self-employed workers, reaching over 500-600 members by March 2026, and automated 96% of services rendered by the Workers' Compensation Fund. Honorable Chair, the Commission for Mediation and Arbitration, CMA, has also introduced online case management system in Tanzania known as e-Utatuzi. The launch of e-Utatuzi system within labor administration institution has significantly improved the handling of labor's dispute by enabling workers and employers to register, comprehend, and submit cases online from any location across the country. Honorable Chair, to strengthen tripartite dialogue, the government has enhanced engagement among tripartite partners, which resulted into setting of minimum wage for the private sector effective from the 1st January 2026, amendment of labor laws in the year 2025, and ongoing process of ratifying key international OSH conventions. Honorable Chair, in conclusion, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania remains committed to work closely with ILO and the social partners to ensure that artificial intelligence advances human dignity, social justice, inclusion, and sustainable development. Honorable Chair, we value the continued support of ILO and emphasize that the importance of strengthening international cooperation, technical assistance, and knowledge sharing that assist developing countries to harness artificial intelligence for decent work, productivity, and inclusive economic growth. Thank you for your kind attention. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. I'm pleased to take over the chairing of this sitting. The next speaker on the list is Mr. Anatoly Nekrasov from Belarus, the chairman of the Republican Union of Construction Contractors and vice chairman, Confederation of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to take part in such an important forum and to speak on behalf of the Confederation of Employers of the Republic of Belarus, a country which is proud to be one of the founding members of the United Nations organization. In Belarus, as in many other countries, we are witnessing and participating in the development of a new technological transformation related to the rapid development of artificial intelligence. We see that in many manufacturing processes, we have robotization and automation being introduced alongside artificial intelligence. As with previous technological transitions, its introduction is likely to lead to significant changes related to increase of employment, the appearance of new professions, changes in work skills. Changes in the world of work with which humanity entered the 21st century are highly diverse and unpredictable. For some, these technologies allow for the development of new possibilities. For other, it may lead to changes in their working conditions or even in social status. At the political level, it's important to resolve these issues in ensuring universal access to advanced development in this area, as well as in creating adaptive systems for sharing knowledge and learning skills, as well as developing new skills and mastering new professions. In this sense, the issues raised, as well as the course set for the future activities of the ILO laid out in the report of the Director General, Mr. Ungbo, is one that we fully support. Colleagues, in the Republic of Belarus, artificial intelligence is becoming an accessible technological tool, and the areas for its application are rapidly broadening. At the institutional level, our country, with the support of employers, is undertaking important steps to develop the legal basis and the infrastructure, as well as creating the conditions for the implementation of AI. A priority is government regulation and supporting the processes for the use of artificial intelligence, balanced with priority areas of socioeconomic development of the Republic of Belarus, including questions of safety with the introduction of technologies. Belarus presented an initiative for a model law on artificial intelligence for CIS countries. However, Belarus, in doing so, also demonstrated their willingness to participate in intergovernmental cooperation in areas such as transport, goods transit, engineering, energy, tourism, education, medicine, and the social sector, as well as the area of social change. We are progressively introducing the underused possibilities of AI, optimizing business processes and procedures in manufacturing activities, and improving the quality of production in digitization of managerial decision-making and monitoring systems for occupational safety. New digital technologies and AI lead to new possibilities for many people who are working remotely or part-time. This new paradigm, which provides a new impulse for workers in a rapidly changing world. Work of the National Council on Labour and Social Questions and the Employers Confederation of the Republic of Belarus aim to unite the efforts of social partners to create an AI ecosystem in the Republic of Belarus for sustainable development
close attentions. Despite significant progress, labor market remain gender segregated in many parts of the world, including in highly digital and technological sectors. Without deliberate action, AI systems trained to bias data is a risk of reproducing discrimination and deepening existing inequalities and recruitment, pay, career advancement, and access to opportunities. A human-centered approach to AI must therefore include gender equality at every stage of policy development and implementation. This means ensuring equal access to education, digital skills, lifelong learning, and in decision-making. Mr. President, as we navigate the opportunities and challenges presented by artificial intelligence, we must remember that innovation cannot be separated from rights. International labor standards provide the framework needed to protect workers and ensure that human dignity remains at the center of the future of work. This is why the role of the ILO's normative system is more important than ever. International labor standards offer both certainty and direction and in a changing world. Iceland remains firmly committed to this approach, and as a demonstration of that commitment, Iceland is currently ratifying two important ILO instruments. First, Working in Fish Convention number 188 and the Safe and Healthy Working Environment Convention number 191. These ratifications reflect our belief that strong labor standards, safe and healthy workplaces, and respect for fundamental rights are not only safeguards from the past, but they are also essential foundation for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Martin Rapellini from the Employers Group of Argentina. Please take the stage.
Buenos días a todos.
Very good morning, everybody. In my capacity as the employer delegate of my country and president of the Argentinian Industrial Union, I would like to extend my greetings to the officers of this conference. The Director General's report calls upon us to reflect on how we can take advantage of technological innovation for promoting decent work. This is one of the biggest challenges of our age. Technology alone does not create well-being. It does so when it increases productivity and is transformed into investment, employment, and higher salaries. Argentina's situation is quite clear. In 2025, the unemployment rate stood at 7.5%, but we've not seen a growth in jobs in the private sector for the past 15 years, and informal sector is where 43% of our workers work. This is a challenge for workers, companies, and governments. Building more formal and good quality employment against a backdrop of profound technological, economic, and geopolitical change is a conundrum. The key to productivity is productivity is key to social inclusion. From a business point of view, innovation cannot be analyzed separately from productivity. Technology creates amazing opportunities, but transforming them into jobs, investment, and employment requires companies that can grow, compete, and survive over time. This is particularly relevant for those of us who are competing in the international market. In industry exports, prices and quality standards are set at a global level. Productivity is not a choice. It is a matter of survival. The democracies with the highest levels of well-being, inclusion, and social protection are those who have guaranteed workers' rights and at the same time have managed to take advantage of opportunities to develop. In our country, this is the spirit which is embodied by the Labour Modernisation Act. A large majority in Parliament was in favour of this act, and it fully respects our constitution. This law represents a turning point. It is a major step towards modernising industrial relations. It fosters hiring and adapting working teams to new technologies. It strengthens the occupational risks system and provides legal predictability for those who wish to invest and hire workers. In Argentina, we are going through a process of macroeconomic stabilization, which is much needed. Stability, combating inflation, predictability, and respect for contracts are prerequisites for restoring investment and trust. But stability alone is not enough. Technological transformation requires access to productive credit, particularly for small and medium-sized companies. It means that we have to close digital gaps, promote lifelong learning for workers and businessmen, and foster education systems which are more connected to the new skills required by the world of work. We also need regulatory and tax frameworks which will allow us to adapt and compete on an equal footing with the rest of the world. Innovation flourishes when there are productive ecosystems which are open to change and enable us to invest in the future. We particularly value social dialogue as part of this process. International experience shows us that the most successful transformations are those which bring together governments, employers, and workers around shared goals. Tripartism is not just a working method, it's a vital tool for building lasting consensus in times of change. This challenge is also one for the ILO. The ILO must respond to global challenges and take on board the concerns of the productive sector, industry, and strengthen the ability to support countries in promoting environments which are conducive to sustainable companies. Building societies in which workers and businessmen are able to fully develop their potential, increase their productivity, and strengthen their capacities to create more opportunities for coming generations are what we want. Thank you.
Gracias. Next, we have Jerome Cassandi from Switzerland, the government of Switzerland, the chef de la direction des travaux and the secrétariat d'État à l'économie. Please take the stage.
Madame la Vice-Présidente.
Madam Vice President, representative of the Director General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, three symbolic keys, three keys symbolizing tripartism, which were used at the inauguration of the first ILO headquarters in Geneva 100 years ago in 1926. 100 years later, the message remains the same. Strong social dialogue and living tripartism create the best basis for developing labor standards and economic policies which are efficient and legitimate. In this spirit, Switzerland welcomes the Director General's report. We reaffirm ILO, which is strong, credible, and respected for its expertise in terms of social justice. This requirement takes on particular importance given the rise of the digital economy and artificial intelligence. Even if the context has considerably developed over the last 100 years, the principles of tripartism remain just as important today. It is no surprise then that social dialogue is still the tool which can ensure that decisions concerning AI in the world of work are equitable, inclusive, and founded in the reality on the ground. The arrival of new technologies often leads to concerns. We focus on what we might lose. At the same time, economic history demonstrates that these technological moments of progress, are often related to new job creation. Of course, like with previous technological transitions, AI will transform the job of different professions and the organization of work. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I will work differently 20 years from now. Our tasks will be different. And even a transition towards a new sector of activity as the result of AI. Even in this case, you will have understood that Switzerland does not fear a robocalypse. To accompany the transitions, Switzerland insists on the importance of investing in skills development, on professional training, and lifelong learning. The Swiss dual training system, based on very close cooperation between social partners, illustrates a concerted approach to work alongside changes in the world of work. This commitment is in line with the Centenary Declaration of the ILO for the Future of Work 2019, as well as the Swiss Tripartite Declaration on Social Partnership for the age of digitalizing our economy. Our support mechanisms, including unemployment insurance, must be ready to accompany these transitions. Advisors for people who are out of work must understand how the labor market is evolving and the impact that AI has on it. Further, within unemployment insurance, the tools for social insurance must use the opportunities presented by digitalization and artificial intelligence. This accompaniment within the state must go hand in hand with policies which favor investment, productivity, innovation, and as a result, job creation in the economy as a whole. Starting from this position, should the ILO regulate the use of AI on the labor market? And if we wish to do so, it must be based on ongoing dialogue with all tripartite members, ensuring that the administrative burden remains proportional. Between innovation and regulation, we need to find the right balance. Throughout this conference, constituents are developing new standards on decent work in the platform economy. This is an important step in which Switzerland will be making sure that we work towards consensus and find the right balance. In conclusion, Switzerland is convinced that expertise, infrastructure, and the entire ecosystem of international Geneva will allow us to promote our knowledge on the use of AI in the world of work. We will continue to ensure that questions concerning the world of work are considered in global discussions dedicated to artificial intelligence. In particular, and I just have to advertise this as well, at international summits such as the World Summit on AI, which will be held in Switzerland next year in 2027. Madam Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.
Merci. The next speaker is from the Workers' Group of Mongolia, Mr. Timir Engbatar.
Mr. President, Director General, distinguished delegates, on behalf of Confederation of Mongolian Trade Unions and all our members, I extend our sincere greetings to you. Today, rapid technological advancement, climate change, and geopolitical instability are profoundly transforming labor markets worldwide. In this critical period,
you.